Hey, next we're going to start with book 3 here. And book 3 is basically putting together a tire. One of the things I've noticed watching other videos, some of these books are really short. It's like 3 pieces, you slap it together, you're done. Other ones are kind of long and takes a lot of time. So it looks like this is going to be an easy one. We have the parts. Basically, we're just going to be building a tire. That's pretty much it on this one. Then we've got some other information and something about Steven Spielberg, and some more information about how they decided to come to build the car and how they ended up finally building the car. Then something again on Christopher Lloyd as Doc Brown, and then the next we'll do part 4, which is building the reactor. And again on the back, just what parts you're going to have. So let me get this open and we'll start building. So we have the parts laid out. Really nice heavy tire, rubber. Nice writing on both sides. The hubcap, the wheel, and we're going to be using BP screws here. Now there's another part that you see here. Let's see if I can show you on the top view right here. It's a pin, and it's called pin. And when I was watching other videos, people were talking about how it keeps falling out, how it's hard to find, and it was really a pain. So when I took everything apart, I was looking for it. Couldn't find it. Oh, I dropped it. Looked on the carpet. Spent some time. Couldn't find it. No, actually, it is right there. So it's already in place where it should be. So basically, it's just the valve stem. Okay, so we're going to start getting ready to build. You see, we're going to take, and the first part is to put that in place. It's already there. Second part we're going to do is we're going to be pushing this into, and I don't think it matters what side, since both sides are pretty much the same. Push that in place. Good. This is metal, so this is already a pretty hefty tire. Then next step is we're going to be installing hubcap, which that is plastic. So let's get our screws open here. So we have already used BP screws. So we've used AP screws, BP screws. And then we take this and we're going to match it up to the 3 holes here to match up these 3 holes here. And then we're going to secure with the BP screws. Okay. Just had to really kind of push hard to kind of get everything to lock in so it was in the right place. For some reason it just wasn't locking in place. So I had to really kind of work it to get it to stay in place. And there we have finished. Next we're going to put on the hub, which is this tiny little piece here. And that just sets in place like that. And then next we're going to put in the hub cap, which you can see has the that just pops into place right there. And that is it for this, for issue 3. Next we'll get on to issue 4. So let me get that ready and we'll get ready to build it. Issue 4. And basically issue 4 is the basically it's the nuclear reactor part, and then there's also the Mr. Fusion. Now you can build this model as either Back to the Future, the original, or the part 2, or at the very end of the first one. I don't think I'm going to do that. This is going to be just a straight build. And so I don't think I'm going to build the Mr. Fusion part. No need to build something I'm not going to use. What I'd really like to do if I really had the money is I'd love to build each one, because you could buy aftermarket parts to turn this into the DeLorean in part 3, but that will be my kind of like a goal for someday. But for right now, we're just going to do the part 1. So I'm going to get this opened, we'll look at the book, and get ready to build. So I've got all the parts laid out, and we can see what I'm saying. We have the Mr. Fusion, we have the parts that build the main reactor for the first part. We have some AP screws, we have some CP screws, we have some very tiny springs, which I believe are for the Mr. Fusion. So like I said, I'm not going to put together the Mr. Fusion part. I may someday, but right now I'm just not going to, because I don't plan on using it. So there's the part. So let's take a look at the magazine. And of course we have, again, all the parts that show you what parts you're going to use with numbers. Then we're going to be building, like I said, we're going to build the reactor. And that is right here. So this is just the reactor in the very first movie. Then we building the Mr. Fusion. And we continue to build Mr. Fusion. And then you have the final, what it should look like when you're all done with building all the parts. Then it gets into more information about the movie. I always like reading these because you find out all kinds of neat things, so it's kind of neat to have these little background stuff. Then, you know, about how they built the car. Then we get parts about the actors, or the actors, and then kind of a neat little thing on the side here. Some actors that they had considered, like John Lithgow and Jeff Goldblum. Sometimes I like to wonder how that would work. Sometimes you look at actors, go, hey, that might work. Other times you go, that never would have worked. So that's interesting. And we have Einstein, information about Einstein. And then we have it. They show us what's going to be in the next, which is suspension. So you get an idea of what's coming next. Then again, on the back, they just show you again the parts. So let's get building. It's like I had mentioned earlier, when you're building these, there are going to be parts that you're not going to use. And so I always recommend putting them in the bags. Again, like I said, I'm not going to build this. I just put all the Mr. Fusion parts in the bag, so if I need to come back to it later and I want to build it, I'll have all the parts here secure in this bag. So we're going to start with the refuser. So we're going to start with page 1. So we are going, and we're going to be, let's get these screws open. Sometimes that's the harder part. When I've watched World of Wayne and some other people build this, you're going to use a whole lot of AP screws. But what's nice is each volume comes with the screws you're going to need. So that's nice to have. I bought this little kit for screws, so you can put the screws in here, and it has nice labels. These off this side right now. So first we're going to be taking the yellow part here. And into the center of 4B that it clicks into place. So that's going to be this part here. And you can see there's a little knob right here that will click into place. Then we want to turn it so that it locks it into place. Here we go. And that's that assembly. So that's the first part. Then the second part, we're going to take this bigger section here, and we're going to, okay, that's going to move around a bit. That's going to fit in here. We have another, well, see, that keeps falling out. So I'm pretty sure this has to kind of be loose like this, because you're gonna, I believe you'll remove this part when if you put it in Mr. Fusion. You won't need that part. So let's get it turned. I was saying there's a little, it's hard to see black on black, but there's a little post right there that correlates to these, so that when you put it on there, it's finicky. Let's see here. There we go. And we're going to turn it over, and we're going to add 2 AP screws. Okay, and we'll put the AP screws in. And there we have it. Okay, and then our next step is to fix the transparent reactor component, which is this clear part here. And you flip it back over, and that is going to go right there. And again, we use AP screws. Okay, and then we have that component there. And since we are not doing the Mr. Fusion this time, that will complete book 4. So next we'll move on to book 5. Next up is issue 5. And you can see here, issue 5 is we're going to be building the suspension, the front suspension. And as you can see, there are lots of parts. We've got new screws, DM, BM, CM, AM, more APs and some DPs. We have some springs, calipers, a very small spring. So if you're going to build this model, keep an eye on that one, because I didn't see that in the package at first. And when I looked at the parts, I went, oh, I can't find it. It was actually in the package. So either don't throw your packages away or really double check them for some of this small stuff. So we're going to start building that. So the first thing we need to do is take this part here and this section here, and it's going to fit this. And we're going to need some AM screws. Make sure we got that right. Okay, we got them in there. Now we want to tighten them up. Now this has, it's going to move in there because it's got a kind of a slot. So I don't want to over tighten them. But I need to get them without rounding off my screwdriver. And there we go. So that's that part. Next is this part here. And it's going to go through the hole like this. Oops. I know it's kind of hard to see black on black. It's hard for you guys to see it. It's even harder for me to see it. So they're going to go into those small holes there. There's a couple of holes here, and that's going to fit in there. And let's move this out of the way. And those are going to use BM screws. Now, if you remember when I mentioned earlier in the start of the build, and it goes pretty much for, I think Eaglemoss does this with all their stuff, is if it has an M after it, so BM screw, that means it's going to go into metal, like a BP screw, and AP screw means it's going to go into plastic. Not that it's important when you're building it, but it's just, you know, something to know. Why they named them that way or put letters in them. So let's go. Boy, it's a pain to get everything lined up just right, because every time you get it lined up, you move, it moves. Okay, we got it. Again, I think this part is designed to move. So I think if we don't want to over tighten, but we don't want to under tighten either. We can always go back once we're kind of get everything put together and retighten things we need to tighten. So next is the spring, this big spring here. You know, the way this is going, by the time I'm done with this, I could probably work for my brother in his shop. So Bill, when I retire, I'm working for you. So we've got that fits in there, and our next screw is going to be a, you know, it's funny, in some of these instructions, they're really good at like telling you to put screws, what screw it is, like BM, SM, whatever. But here, they don't. They just basically, you're going to need to hold it in with part. Let's see here. So, lower part A5 into top. Where is A5? Nope, lower A5, and then hold part together and secure with EM. So we have some EM screws. And that is a new screw. And EM screws have this little kind of lip on them. And that's going to fit right there on the top. And we're probably going to have to So what you have to do is get that lined up, pressed in, and compress that spring so that we can get this screw in there. Okay. So there we go. And there we go. So next we're taking this part here, and it's going to go in here like so. And let's get this here, and that is going to be using CM screws. So let's get our EM screws out. Those are some pretty long screws. And then we're going to match, let's see, it's okay, it does have a, kind of matters which side. This is kind of concave, this is smooth on the top, that's what's going to go here. And just get it started just a little bit so it has something, because right now it just kind of slides in there and it's metal and it's not really, doesn't have anything to bite into. Okay, again, I don't think we want to make this too tight because we're going to have to move it around, but once we can go back, we can tighten it if we need to. We've got this guy here. And let's move the screw out of the way. Next, we're going to be using DM screws. And this part is going, let's see, it has all these little weird cattywampus deals. It's going to go that way and corresponding holes. Yep, it's got to go this way. So we're going to take our DM screws and get that going. Get that started. And we'll get one here. Okay. Here. Got this little part here, and the spring is just going to slide over that. slides over that, and then next, that is, I have the brake here. Looks like it's going to go into here, and we're going to do a DP screw. So and the DP screw is going to go right there. You got to kind of compress that spring a bit. Get that straight. I think the screw's a little off. Not sure how tight that is supposed to be. But again, like I said, we can always tighten things up later because the spring compresses, but I don't know how far it's supposed to compress. Plus this thing keeps spinning, so we might have to get it hooked onto something and then tighten it. Okay, so we'll just see where that goes. Now next we've got so looks like we're going to be putting this on. So it's got 2 pins and then 1 screw. So we've got this like so. We'll align the pins till they snap in. And then we'll use an AP screw. So let's get the DP screw out of the way. And we've got AP screws. Okay, and now we have brake. And next we're going to attach this assembly to our assembly here. Hold the left front of the brake and suspension assembly, and we're going to use DM screws. So we'll get our DM screws again. So you've got it kind of snaps. Now there's a magnet, and I'll show you why, and it kind of snaps into place. Now we're just going to use this DM screw here. Yeah, screwdriver's good. So basically that's a wheel, and what it does, it has a magnet so that it'll sit like this. So when, like I said, remember I said you could build the car in part 2 and then the end of part 1. So if you put the wheels on, then you can snap down like they're in that flight mode. And that completes that assembly. Now the next book, which is book 6, does the same exact thing. It's just for the right side. So I'm not going to bore you with that whole process again. So when it's done, I'll come back and show you that finished product, and we'll show them together. So give me time to do that, and I'll get right back to you. So let's take a quick look at book 6. Book 6 does the same thing that issue 5 did. You can see this time it's just the right front suspension, so the build is exactly the same. The screws are the same. So like I said, I don't want to bore you with that build. So I'll just go ahead and do that off camera and then come back and show you when it's completed. But in the book again here we have stuff. This is, you know, about Thomas F. Wilson, who played Biff. And then we have some location stuff where they filmed it, which is basically on the back lot of Universal. And then, you know, some stuff on the school. And then they talk about the enchantment under the sea dance. And then we see on the next issue, we'll be doing some steering rack on the steering. So we're going to start getting into the body build, and that will be on the next issues once I get them. And again, just the parts that we're going to be building again, which is just the right side of what we just did. Now, welcome back. We now have both completed, the left and the right. And again, they just snap off. And they're nice and tight. Like I said, I may have to tighten some stuff up. I just don't know. We'll see when we get them on there. But they are completed. And that completes all of the books I have. So I should be getting some in the next month. So when we get in the next month, we'll get back to you on that. So I appreciate you watching. So another thing I wanted to show you that came with this is a binder. So they always kind of give you binders to put the books in. In the past I've used them, but then the problem is you end up needing more binders than they give you. So you decided to buy them. So I probably will not use this binder. I just keep them in a magazine rack. So, but who knows? But it's nice. It's kind of a nice binder. It has the deals inside so that you can put the magazines in it and it would keep them safe. So it's not a bad binder, and like I said, it came with this build, so